we're in the next part. Please go check out the previous part. In the last part, I was ranting and raving and complaining about the bringing of children into this world in very irresponsible ways, and the bringing of these kids, of which by such irresponsible people that are continuing to proliferate their own irresponsibility because of the fact that they imagine that if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like, you know, when you run with the examples of wicked men, the unfortunate thing about that is that on that day you're just gullible, you are credulous, you are being tossed to and from. Indeed, that's what the Bible said about unstable souls. You're being tossed to and from by every wind of doctrine. And when you get tossed to and from by every wind of doctrine, having not made your own solid decision for yourselves, you are going to go against your own better judgment. You're going to go against your own conscience, whatever it is that is motivating or demotivating you inwardly, your own internal mechanisms. Do you understand? For regulation, you will ignore them. You will ignore, otherwise known as a conscience. You will just ignore it. And that's exactly what's been happening. Like, I don't know how in the world under heaven this world is not springing people back into shape just on conscience alone, because what's happening is obviously bizarre. What's happening is obviously bizarre, and yet people are just running with what is comfortable and easy. You cannot be the only society in all of the human race to change how societies have operated successfully for years, guys, and just try to change that. Like, if a model works, don't fix it. You cannot try to fix that which is not broken. And the human race has had models of operation in society that have worked for millennia, for centuries, and here it is that they are making a decision to, just in the last 100 years of history, comprehensively changed how we have looked at life and things entirely. In just 100 years, I'm sorry, you don't get to like speed run into hellfire like that and have God not intervene on his affairs on his earth. Also, especially considering his children, those that have chosen him, are grieved. They are grieved. They are living on the periphery of society, in the outliers. You don't get to just do the most, and yet you're doing the most. And from what I saw in my dream, children, babies, brand spanking new ones, are going to be the biggest targets. Still, they already are. They're going to be the biggest target of some wicked system, because apparently the age of accountability is so little that somehow it will be easy to just condemn your babies. Like, I had a guys, these kids were getting eaten by the crocodile. Like, I don't know how many times I've seen crocodiles in my dreams. I cannot explain to you what under heaven the sighting of a crocodile means. I'm doing edits in the background, that's why I'm looking over there. I can't tell you what the sighting of a crocodile means in a dream. All I know is that it always represented a very nefarious force. Alright? I'll tell you one dream actually that I had where I saw a crocodile. It was one of the first dreams that I had. I have ever had a myriad, quite a lot, and I'm always very scared. I am always extremely scared in my dream of them. I'm always running. They are exceptionally evil, and like I said, I don't even know why the crocodile. I usually affiliate evil, many people anyway in the world affiliate evil with snakes, perhaps snakes, yeah, you know, but crocodiles, I'm seeing those. Okay, so some dude that I used to think was my husband, my future husband, how the Lord was trying to show me that Karabo, Tlogela, this guy, move on, he's not the one. He's nothing, he's no one. Like, if anything, he's messed you up as well, using sorcery. I, however, was still in denial, and I was out here head over heels in love with him, and so God had to basically discourage me ever so severely by showing me what's actually going on. Now, guys, you know, when you don't give your life to Christ, you have no idea how naked, how bare you are to the elements. You have no clue just what people are doing to you. Anyway, this guy was involved in darkness. So too was the woman that he would ultimately marry. I will not get into the details, or lots of them anyway, of what under heaven was happening with that woman or him, because I have explained that story before and it's not worth my while to repeat it again. Plus, that's not what I'm talking about here today. So I'm just going to put it out there very briefly that she suddenly came into his life she just suddenly rocked up, and he suddenly proposed marriage to her, and very quickly everything just happened. And the reason why that even happened as quickly as it did was because she chose him. And in church, she was like, that's the guy that I'm gonna marry, and then went to work on whatever under heaven it is that she would go to work concerning to make this guy realistically then become her husband. And it was that ritual that put me in harm's way. how it is under heaven that she guaranteed that man for herself as a husband. This is how it went. She went to a sangoma and said, I found my husband, like proper. Imagine that level of arrogance. Yes, like it, guys. As in, you know, these people, like, that's why I can't stand witches. I'm sorry. Y'all might think I have an unnecessary bias against them. But I give a battle because of stuff like this. Like, they lay claim to people. They literally tag you like an animal. Ingati, like, you know, that those staples that they put on cows' ears to mark them as belonging to one particular farm. Yeah, they do that with people. They mark you, gata, with a staple on your ear. Written lerato, written piggy, written lerato tsepo. Like proper, just something that's going to label you with their name. They call you their wife before you have accepted their marriage proposal. Or in the case of this chick, she called him her husband before he even proposed marriage. Yes, like it. He deserves it though, because like I said, una lawyer self. So how lawyer otro lawyer? How otsaya? When you bewitch, you're gonna be bewitchable. And never mind that, when you're not in Christ, I'm not shielding, there's no protection. Okay? Like this guy in America, he refers to me as his wife. He keeps calling himself my husband. Yeah, my young thing, he's my husband, my wife. Yo, yes, like it. I'm being called wife by a man I want nothing to do with. I find him disgusting. But thanks to his occult rituals, as such that he's already professed me as his. So it doesn't matter to him, I guess bye. Anyway, let me go on to explain this dream, because like I said, it's not even the core part of my message. I had a dream because God was trying to snap me out of thinking that this guy's my husband. Alright? And in this dream, there was like female paraphernalia, like things that women use. Earrings, lipsticks, mascara wands. You get my point. Anything I'm on side, yeah. There was female paraphernalia dug up near a river. You know, in that muddy soil near a river, almost looking like clay. There was female paraphernalia dug up there. And I was standing next to this female paraphernalia. And around me, I was encircled by, even though I was not in the water, crocodiles. I was encircled by crocodiles, and I was scared for my life. I didn't know where to run. There were a whole bunch of them fighting each other in the water, these crocodiles. But there were also others around me that were walking, like as in erect, upright, not crawling on their belly like the way that crocodiles do. Look, a snake is a reptile, so too is a crocodile, isn't it? I guess that's the reason why maybe they get used. Anyway, whatever. And maybe the Lord uses crocodiles because snakes, yes, there are water snakes out there, but a lot of the witchcraft that is done by black people is from. Hi guys, I spoke for like a whole hour and I lost my footage. You are not going. Yes, like it. I lost the last. I was only able to save like 8 minutes and I lost an hour. So I'm in a really bad space because of that. I was almost finished, but I will continue to speak anyway. I will try and highlight all the things I said, even though I lost work, like a whole hour. These are the issues that I am faced with, and I'm trying to give a message to people so that they can save themselves from the darkness that is coming. And these are the challenges that I'm faced with. Like, yes, and guys, this thing is not sustainable. Anyway, let's just get to the point. That those 8 minutes where I spoke, I lost was ending in trying to explain to you guys some dream that I had with crocodiles in it. Look, let me just talk without laboring too much with pain in my heart over the loss of a whole hour of talking. Let me just get to the point, and maybe I'll even cut it short into 45 minutes instead of laboring so much. Let's just talk, okay? I've had dreams in the past about crocodiles, and the earliest memory that I had about crocodiles were, I don't know, that video, the last one that I did, whether I explained to you the dream and what in the world under heaven is that I was shown, but I was explaining I'm even tempted to just go to that video to listen to hear how much of it I shared. Whatever, let me just talk, okay? Because at this point it's already like 10 at night, and if I can just talk and get this out the way, even if I'm cutting it super short, I'll feel better. I was speaking about how it is that I keep getting dreams a lot about crocodiles, and some of them are standing erect. They're like standing like human beings instead of crawling on their bellies, right? I spoke about how it is that I don't understand. I guess I don't know why so much crocodiles are used instead of maybe snakes, because snakes are always affiliated with darkness type thing. But nonetheless, I've seen a lot of crocodiles in my dreams, and I would imagine that the reason why that's the case is because of ancestral worship spirits. I don't know, because they're always doing rituals by rivers and whatnot. But I once had a dream, and I don't know if I explained that dream. If I'm explaining it again, have mercy on me, please, because I lost footage and my heart is very broken about that. But let's just move on. All right, I had a dream where it is that some guy that I used to think was my husband. I'm really just gonna glide right through this because I lost so much footage, like it's just ridiculous. Some dude that I used to think was my future husband, when the Lord was trying to discourage me from continuing to think in this way, he showed me what in the world under heaven was going on with his decision for me, or lack thereof, to show me that that's not your man, like just move on, and he's not my disciple, he does not love me, he is lost himself, and that's the only reason why witchcraft is even working on him. The woman that he ended up married to basically chose him in church. Yes, and I'm so tempted to just go in. I'm doing that. Hi, ish, as in, like, my heart is so broken, like the work that I lost, y'all. But you know what? If I don't talk through this and conquer what I've just lost, I'm not gonna be okay. I'm not gonna be okay. I'm going to win. I'm gonna win. Like, I'm gonna win. I'm gonna share this dream. I'm going to communicate what in the world under heaven it is that I saw. Whether or not it's 10 at night, bottom line is this information is important. This understanding is key. And I heal from doing the work that I do, alongside try and provide healing to anyone else who would like to hear the truth. I was busy. Okay, so I lost the footage where I was explaining this dream that I had long ago, showing me crocodile activity, right, in an environment. Anyway, whatever. So the guy that I used to think was my future husband, how the Lord discouraged me from continuing to think that nonsense was essentially by him showing me what actually went down spiritually to block us from coming together. He met some woman that chose him at church, like in a singles ministry or something. She saw him and she was like, that guy, I want him, he's my husband. And once she basically made a decision that he's her husband, she then went on a mission to make that a reality using sorcery. She was a professing Christian, is still to this day. So too was he. And they found each other. They deserve each other. They're like Bonnie and Clyde. They're a criminal pair, basically, in the occult. And however, the woman is the one that reeled him in with sorcery. And then he ultimately married her. So I guess, like I said, they deserve each other. What this woman did was go to a sangoma, right? I told you guys that I had a dream where it is that I was basically standing next to, I found myself in a dream where I was encircled by a whole bunch of crocodiles. Some of them were standing upright like human beings, while others were swimming, wrestling each other in the water nearby. And I was standing next to what looked like female paraphernalia next to me in this dream. And when I was standing next to what looked like female paraphernalia, the lipstick, the bra, whatnot. When I woke up, I didn't understand what was going on. I then went on right ahead to, of course, continuously ask God, what in the world am I seeing? What in the world am I seeing? What in the world am I seeing? Ultimately, the Lord then would show me that he met a woman in church, and this chick she chose him. She was like, that's the guy that I want. He's gonna be my husband. And then she embarked on all different kinds of strategies to make him her husband, including, I guess, this like demonic ritual. And upon going to Sangoma told her, go to a store and buy all different kinds of female paraphernalia, like the lipstick, the bra, whatever, anything abasari. You don't have to break bank, it can be cheap. And once you have bought that, pour the stuff on it, and then go to Letamo, a river, a dam, anywhere, and dig a hole, and bury this paraphernalia there, and leave it there. And for as long as this paraphernalia is there at the river, at the dam, the woman that has your husband's heart, or your future husband's heart, the man the woman she is going to basically be there with like go buried under the ground, just like that female paraphernalia. And so he's not going to see her. He's going to be blinded from her. And that's exactly what that guy did. He moved away from me. He didn't move away from me. What did he do? He ignored me. Like, it's like he became blind to his ambitions concerning me. And he passed me up, ended up marrying another woman. And once he was married to her, it took me a year to find out that they were married. And in the time, I was still hopeful for us. And the Lord showed me, tsunami. And he was trying to also help me understand that what I put together, let no man separate. So if that man was supposed to be your husband, he would not have been taken away by the tsunami of that sorcery. If he was a Christian, it wouldn't have worked on him. He went in that direction because in and of himself he was dark. It would take me a minute to finally understand that, get that, basically snap out of my temporary psychosis, if you want to call it that. It would take me a minute. However, that dream, Kibondi crocodile, in it was among the first dreams that I got where I saw these crocodiles. So it's not the first time that I'm seeing crocodiles in my nightmares. Do you understand what I'm saying? And so I believe what these crocodiles represent is, of course, some kind of a demonic force. It represents some kind of a demonic entity, and I do believe it is also sutured or linked to likely ancestral spirits. I don't know, but I've seen it quite a lot, and some of these crocodiles aren't even and I'm always very scared in my dreams because they're scary. I mean, they're like a whole predator. There's always a very strong fear, a spirit of fear, like but they've never ever succeeded to get me. I've also had dreams where I'm just sitting almost like at a what do you call this, like hanging out at the beach watching the water, just chilling there. But like, instead of it being at the beach, live very dark, just sitting there. That was during that time. That was the Lord showing me from her husband's eyes, and you will forever be buried at the dam, at the river, from the eyes of that man. And I allowed that sorcery to work precisely because I don't want you with them. I didn't want you guys together. Now in terms of how sorcery works, I've explained this to you guys in the past before. Witches cannot merely just cast spells. Do you understand what I'm saying? And get what they want, like, all the time. Some of their witchcraft fails because the Lord is the final authority. If you look at the book of Job, it'll explain to you how sorcery works. Demons have got to ask permission to do what they want, what they desire to do on the earth. They cannot merely just do what they want, because if they leave their first estate, the Lord will then bind them in chains. That's what's good. So that's why some sorcery does not work, meaning that I am definitely not under any spells. It is incredibly naive for anyone at all to imagine that I am under any kind of witchcraft spell. I'm not. I can't be, precisely because of the fact that I'm a born-again Christian, and also because of the fact that there are some non-believers out there that are also secured or protected from sorcery. And the reason why they are protected is because God has a plan for them, or the Lord just very simply won't have it. Like, it's just that simple, right? I actually heard listen to a testimony of some guy that got rescued from a death curse that he was basically sitting around waiting for it to effect, because he was promised by the cult that he left that he is going to die. And when the day came for him to die, he was just waiting to die, and it didn't happen. And 2 years later, he got born again. So he wasn't born again immediately. The Lord, however, intended to save him later on. And so that spell just kind of fell on deaf ears. It did not work. The occult would know this. Their spells don't always succeed. It's that basic. So that's why they're latching on to me for dear life, because they think I'm just very sensitive to the when it is rather true that God has set me apart to do this particular work. I spoke about that in that previous part, in the previous part that I lost, that video. So for those reasons, I'm just gonna save now, because I was glitching somewhere along the way and I don't want to keep losing content. Alright, now that you've heard that, and now that I've described to you guys this whole presence of the crocodiles, let's move on right ahead to describe to you this dream that I had, but not first before rapping on at length about what it is that I spoke about. Okay? Listen, tribulation, the era or the season that's coming. Women, you need to avoid pregnancy. The dream that I had involved my cousin, alright? And I don't know if I have described this cousin to you. Let me just describe her just in case. Yeah, just in case. She is a woman that has had 2 sons, the first child of which nobody knows who the baby daddy is. And the second kid, the dad is around or not. So I don't know what's going on over there, the kid. And in my dream, this woman's child kept on getting devoured, a third child that she presently does not have. I went on right ahead to elaborate, I believe, in the second part. That's when it is that I was making this script. I was unpacking this. I was elaborating on the present state of the human race in the 21st century. I was elaborating on how it is that we are far gone. I was elaborating on how it is that the last 100 years of the human race has declined exponentially in terms of morality, to a point where we are barely recognizable in comparison to other times in history. And that this season that we find ourselves in is perilous. It is described in the scriptures as perilous. It is insufferable. It is intolerable. What it is that the human race has become is, frankly, what is this? It is unacceptable in the sight of God. And it is also condemning children. It is condemning children at alarming rates. Kids are being born more and more to irresponsible parents than frankly anybody can ever take in their stride. I don't know if I spoke about this in the first part or what, but if at all I didn't, I will highlight it again. saying that back when I was still, I guess, on the come up, prior to me giving my life to Christ, I had so many friends that merely wanted babies. They merely wanted children with men, but then there was no marriage prospect in sight. And I spoke about how it is that I'm being severely pursued to just go and have a baby, because I long for one. Right, I want children, and so I'm being basically forced to very quickly just go and grab the baby without there being a husband. Now, let me just get into the gist of the message that I was speaking about. Actually, before I even get to the gist of that message, I really have to unpack this in a way that still is impactful, because I lost footage and it was just so good, my unraveling of the message, that I listen up. Okay, children, when you raise y'all, because of having lost that footage, now I feel like I'm going to be stumbling around all over the show, and so lose the power of oratory that I was on, because I'm trying to recall what under heaven it is that was in just the last part, and instead of having to reiterate points from the first part. Do you understand? This whole thing of just making babies because you are broody. From what the Lord God Almighty showed me in this dream, you might as well be brewing babies for hellfire. You might as well be making babies just for hellfire. I used an example in the pro-choice arena, where it is that they keep on talking about pregnancies up to a certain trimester as merely clumps of cells inside a woman's body, and not it being much in order to substantiate or justify abortion. And these clumps of cells, the reason why women so easily abort them is because they call them just that, a clump of cells. It's nothing at all. However, abortions go to heaven. Do you understand what I'm saying? And so essentially what you're doing when you give birth to babies that will ultimately go to hell, those are the real clumps of cells. Those are the real, those are the real travesties. Those are the real damages. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because if at all the Lord could take Bathsheba's and David's baby to heaven as clumps of cells, it means therefore that the Lord regards those clumps of cells as entire human beings. But the way that humanity is so irresponsible with children, teaching them utter rubbish 24 hours a day, the kids get reduced to clumps of cells, because somewhere along the way, should they perish, somewhere along the way, should they die, they will go to hell. I spoke about how it is that the age of accountability, from what the Lord is showing me, is much younger than what people think. And in this dream, I was evidence to that the devil is in and of himself aware of just how young kids can go to hell at. And so he tries to target them as early as possible, because he has made an observation of certain souls of very young people going to hell. I spoke about that. I don't know if that was in my first part or whatnot. Alright? I spoke about how it is that you don't just get to, for instance, make a baby with a boyfriend, and the two of you don't end up together. This kid is then raised by both you and this guy with other people. And then this kid grew up in that climate, and you imagine this kid turned out alright, because he went on right ahead to become an accountant. Until you make an observation of the lifestyle of this child, having been obviously influenced by the choices of their parents. The kid also has no regard for marriage now. The kid has also no respect at all for the institution of marriage. Do you understand what I'm saying? And marriage is the only place, according to the Lord, where it is that you can essentially have as many babies as you want. You don't get to fornicate. And when you don't do that, you commit adultery. And you also create children that are going to make an observation of adultery as okay. Kids that are gonna think it's alright to just marry and remarry. Kids that are gonna think it's alright to just have children out of wedlock. Kids that are going to think it's okay to romanticize a baby as a couple that is unmarried. And so here it is that we've got a boyfriend and a girlfriend out here popping babies. They don't then end up together. And when they don't end up together, the woman goes on and marries another guy. The guy goes on and marries another woman. However, this kid is now busy being swung between two households. And this then becomes a lifestyle that this child is made to believe is okay. When then they're made to believe it's okay, the kid then is proliferated in sins that God is not approving of. But because they apparently turned out alright, and they were raised by two loving parents, however, in two separate households, these children are going to go on right ahead to think that that's okay to do. Society, the modern society that we live in, is frankly unacceptable, guys. It's just so hugely unacceptable in the sight of God, because it's causing the condemnation of children at such a prolific rate that he has got to bring the tribulation on board for the sake of saving the souls of those children. For the sake of saving the souls of those children, because if those kids do not get made to snap out of a cultural norm that has been so deeply ingrained in them that there's nothing but a very shocking defibrillation technique that will snap them out of that, they will die in their sins. When you keep on disregarding God's plan for family, that's going to backfire at you. God created Eve for Adam, and then family, children came out of that. And that has been his plan, his order, pretty much all throughout the ages. And when people throw that out of whack, they create little adulteresses out of children in the years past, prior to maybe like 100 years going back, it was a taboo, first of all, to break a virginity. It was also a taboo to have a child out of wedlock. And that taboo has been made a non-taboo. If anything, anybody's considered quite archaic that comes from that kind of mindset. And when you are sitting around in that belief set, you are creating just a free exchange of children that are going to ultimately just perish and go to hell. And seeing as some of them are dying very young, seeing as some of them are dying at 16, 15, seeing as some of them are dying at 7, 8, 9, you need to understand that you are producing 7, 8, 9-year-olds for hell. 7, 8, 9-year-olds for hell. Imagine that. The devil knows just how young children can enter into the abyss. And so he is targeting them to enter into there. It is no wonder Hamas is recruiting 7-year-olds in order to become little militants. It's because the devil knows that ain't no such child got a place in heaven. Ain't no kid with that level of anti-Semitism gonna enter the kingdom of heaven. The devil knows deep down inside just how young kids are. How young, what the youngest child in the abyss right now in Sheol is. He knows. And because of the smallness of that age, he is targeting them from very little. And that's what I saw in my dream. You do not get to just derelize God's plan for family and imagine that you're going to be okay. You don't get to just do that. And that's what I was seeing in my dream. I then went on right ahead to unpack, seeing as I lost the footage, but let's just talk right through it anyway. Lie through it as a knife through butter. I guess I can't get to everything that I spoke about. I'm trying to make a point over here, okay? I'm a woman that has been severely brutalized by men. I have been severely vandalized by men. I hate them with a purple passion. I have been brought to this place because I've been abused by people I didn't expect would abuse me. I've been disappointed in a most severe capacity by men I never expected would ever disappoint me. Men who hold positions of authority in society, who also are very well respected by especially other women, have gone on right ahead to show me flames because of the situation that I find myself in. I have seen a very dark side of men because of my sorrow and my situation. If I had never ever been plunged into this level of obscurity, you must understand I would never have known just how bad things can get. Indeed, it is written in God's word that the human heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. That we are born dead in trespasses and sins and instance that our parents conceive us. With the human heart being desperately wicked and deceitful above all things, we don't know how far it can go. And so when a person is placed in a position of vulnerability, people then wear extra fangs on them. And I've been placed in vulnerability such that I have made an observation of so much evil in men that I now today cannot stand them. Akibabatli. As a result of me having been put in this position, there was literally a time, quite thoroughly, where I, because of the fact that ever since I was the age of 22, I've always wanted to have children. I was broody. I've been broody since 22. So, I mean, the fact that I'm hitting 2 decades, or not having children, even though I wanted them desperately from just a tiny age of 22. I got to a point after having been so severely brutalized by men, where I was like, I don't want one. I don't want a husband. I've communicated multiple times in my ministry that I want children even more than a husband. I've said that because of where it is that I have been graduated to in terms of how I think about men. I got to a point where I'm like, okay, so sex before marriage is of course wrong. So I can't fornicate. I can't have sex just to have a child. But I know I don't want the guy. I don't want the man. I don't want to have to deal with that, but I want children. And I want to experience what it's like to carry to term my own baby. So I thoroughly considered that if at all I were to get my life back together again, I would completely overcome the whole desire for marriage. I would entirely veto it. I would say no, I'm not doing it, like at all, but still get the babies anyway. And because I knew that adoption would be very hard as a single woman, I then made a decision that I was going to go via in vitro fertilization to get a child in my stomach. That I was going to go and find a sperm donor and have as many children as I want that way, and then raise them because I will have had enough money to do that. The Lord kept on telling me that is a wicked thing that you're thinking, Karabo, because I'm the one that created Adam and then Eve. For Adam, I have an order for family. So if at all you decide to do things in a discombobulated fashion, what do you think is going to happen to the child that's going to be born from IVF? Not because what do you call this? Not because a couple is struggling to conceive and so they end up using IVF, but rather because you are fed up with men. And so are taking matters into your own hands and having children without them and telling yourself that there is a loophole because you're not fornicating. It's just an injection under local anesthetic. And so you're going to live to tell the story. You, on that day, may not have fornicated and merely used IVF of which I have even allowed in some Christian couples who struggle to conceive in order to put babies in their stomachs. I don't have an issue with it. You might have found a loophole to not fornicate against me. However, what's going to become of that child? If at all that kid that you're trying to raise up in the admonition of the Lord one day asks, but mom, did God not create Eve for Adam? Yes, child, he did. Why then did you not wait for Adam? Why then are you not a helper suitable to a man? Why is my father not a father? Why can I not meet him? Why under heaven? Am I not a part of a nuclear family? If at all you could not wait on God for a husband to make me, why must I wait on God for a wife to make a baby? Why can I not just, in and of myself, just impregnate some chick I don't like and be okay to co-parent? Why can I not do that? Because you did it. You did it. You went on right ahead and created me without a man. And when then you try to convince a child why it is that your particular story makes sense, you're going to go and explain to a kid your exorbitant misandric sentiment. You hate men. You can't stand them. They have brutalized you. So you made me anyway and put me in a structure that God did not intend for family. Why can I not also tweak stuff myself in the future? Whatever it is that is my little permutation from what it is that God will have me do, my child is going to create another permutation. I told you guys that generational curses are a real and an alive thing, where it is that children become what their parents are manifold over to the nth degree. And so my kid would end up questioning God and the veracity of what it is that I am trying to raise him up in as not really all that great. Because mom, why couldn't God also heal your heart from the way that you've been brutalized by men to a point of now all of a sudden being okay to fathom being in a marriage with a man? Why did you not believe that the Lord could heal you enough to make you a stable, happy wife with a man that you're gonna trust? Why did you not trust in God to do that for you? Because here it is now that I don't have a dad and I don't know what's going on, because I can't even try and tap on the shoulder of my donor to find out my lineage, what comes from behind me, my ancestors, basically, like my grandparents and whatnot, what they used to do. Why I can't learn my family tree from the side of my father because he has put on the forms at the sperm donation clinic, do not contact. I do not want this child to contact me in the future. Let him just walk around, but please don't contact me. If at all you can justify doing things that are against the Lord, and then you try to raise your children up in the admonition of the Lord, you are going to fall short, because these kids ultimately wisen up themselves and they make their own decisions. Let me save this because I keep losing content. These kids ultimately get to a point where they make their own decisions because they're not foolish. Kids are put through school when they're still young precisely because they are at that stage where they learn easiest versus adults. So when they're still on the come up, they make observations that we have basically allowed to elude us. And if at all you draw a child away from biblical veracity and from what it is that is virtuous in the sight of God, holy, entirely excellent, praiseworthy, and so therefore ought to be thought on, as it is written in Philippians 4 verse 8 or whatever. If you remove a child's mind from thinking about such things, you then also tarry a child into other avenues of thought that are utterly pagan, utterly irresponsible, and utterly condemning. And so you then are basically creating a clump of cells for the flames of hell. You are creating hellfire. My whole desire for IVF was an undermining of God's power to heal my heart from subterfuge, pernicious, stealthy, absolutely inflamed with indiscretion, wicked barbarian men that have capitalized on my sorrow underground as I am suffering the way that I am suffering, and so become these thieving mongrels, have become these dastardly animals that have decided that they're going to just grab me, hook me in, only because of my sorrowful state. I only have made an observation of how wicked mankind can become, but I have not made a comprehensive observation of how gracious the Lord has been, because you always pay attention to wicked or the dark more than you pay attention to the grace you've been awarded. It's easier to listen to noise than it is to enjoy peace. That's what I'm getting at. And so therefore, whatever it is that might have been the glory of God in rescuing me from all of these dastardly men is not winning as much accolades as how noisome and pestilent disgraceful men have been. And that noisome, pestilent, disgraceful, barbaric activity on the part of men caused me to once upon a time settle with in vitro fertilization, not even taking into consideration what that would mean for the fertilized egg later on, now that it is a child walking around. I got to a point of so much resentment of men that I was like, I don't want some dude walking around me. I just want my children. The Lord basically made it clear to me that there is no room in my world for a godly woman with that kind of mindset. How under heaven are you supposed to explain, if at all I were to restore you to a life, to your church folk, that your kid was produced while you were a Christian by IVF? You're a single parent, and you gotta now explain to people in the church what happened to baby daddy. You cannot lie, you're my disciple. I will not have my kids basically derelize my plan for marriage the way that people in the world are decimating it, you're supposed to be my examples. So the Lord basically saved me from myself. But that very mindset of a broody woman that wants to have a child anyway because her years are ticking away and anyway, and she can't trust men, I'm not the only one. I'm not alone in this camp. I got there as a Christian woman because I've been dealing with dastardly men for almost a decade. But I'm not the only one. I live in a country where gender-based violence is quite prolific. So basically South African women will know what it's like to be on the receiving end of just male indiscretion. Do you understand what I'm saying? So given that I'm not the only one, I also am not the only woman that is out here literally trying to just get a baby with other guy. I'm not the only one. I'm not the only woman. And women in the 21st century are not only so mad with men, but they also have been made so androgynous, so just independent, and believing that they don't need men, that they're prepared to raise entire creches of children without them, when that was never God's intention. There's supposed to be a role model that is male in stature for both women and men, for both girl and boy children. And so the absence of it ought not necessarily lend us over to the plan B of raising these kids anyway without them. We ought desire restoration to what makes sense again, and also insist on enforcing it, because the moment you drop the ball, you also drop the ball on God's plan for salvation. God's whole plan for salvation, mind you, has children involved. It has a God in heaven who calls himself our husband, and we are his wife. God's whole plan for salvation is a family. And so therefore, when you get rid of that in society down below, you undermine God's overall plan to gather for himself a people. You cannot underestimate God's order and not imagine that's going to create godlessness in society. It creates children for the flames. It creates children for hell. And when then you are giving birth to babies that will inevitably burn, you might as well have committed an abortion on what you call a clump of cells. It is near on worse than an abortion. It is not even on the same scale as an abortion, because aborted babies go to heaven. However, kids that get to live a couple of years can go to hell. And that is the bone that God is picking with this modern society of all of this wickedness, all of this misogyny, causing women to want to just raise children by themselves and disregard God's order for family. And then in and of themselves, these kids end up little mini adulteresses without even seeing it as that. Because according to them, I'm just enjoying my life. I'm just enjoying my life. That whole scene. There are women that think that way to a point, you guys. Do you understand what I'm saying? There are women who have got that mindset so richly in their minds to a point even of meeting a guy, getting HIV tests, making sure you have a clean bill of health, just so you can be cuddy buddies, basically sex buddies. And then because men are the ones that tend to be neglectful in terms of protection and all that jazz, if a woman does not insist on it, she will go on right ahead and sleep with a guy that she has already tabulated in her mind, has the right kind of shape of nose, has the right kind of shape of head, has the right kind of braininess. You know, he's got 2 degrees from Wits University, he's got the right kind of height. Anginandaba this guy, even if we are I don't care if he's just passing by. Drive-by shooting. I don't know if he's a boy in the hood, just drive-by shooting and then moving on to the next one. I don't care if he has no intentions of committing, because at the end of the day, anyway, a woman that broken, but then she'll tell herself that he's got the right genes for a beautiful little baby girl or a beautiful little baby boy. And so she allows herself to be impregnated by a guy that she may or may not tell that she is pregnant. Because there are women who are literally going out of their way to just find a sperm donor, seeing as IVF is so expensive. They are finding a sperm donor and guys they are fornicating with, and then after they break up, whatever, the chick that acts like a man and stops taking his calls, and then she's got the baby in her stomach and tells herself, I don't want the guy. I don't want the guy. I just want the babies. And so a woman is out here falling like, pregnant. Who's the baby daddy? Who's the baby daddy? Dad does not know who's the baby daddy. Like colleagues. So who's the lucky guy? Guys, leave me alone. It's none of your business. Like when a pregnancy is just secret, because you have watched yourself. Biological clock is ticking. You're turning 34, and because once you turn 35, apparently you've got a geriatric womb. Then at 34, you have a cuddy buddy for like 5 seconds, and then you move on to your own separate ways. And then you, however, are left on the other side with a pregnancy. You don't even care that the guy's there. You don't even care if he's interested in raising the child. You just want a child, but you don't want the man. Because like Arabo, you are angry at these dastardly creeps that keep on shattering the living daylights out of your heart, promising you, disappointing the living daylights out of you, until you are like Yazening in at 35. And I've dated like 17 guys. one of which promised me the sun and the moon, and I thought he was going to be my husband. And then after 2 months of us breaking up, he is engaged to another woman. Like, I'm not about to waste I'm not going to go and waste my eggs. So I'm going to have a baby without the prospect of just a heartbreak of a disappointing baby daddy. I'm not doing it. Like, just to spare themselves from the pain of dealing with the disappointment of what men can sometimes do when you expect a lot from them in terms of abantwana. You expect maintenance. You expect him to be there. You expect him to actually care. You expect all the stuff. You also might even expect him to marry you. When then this guy is so disappointing that he doesn't do any such thing favorably. Anyway, you then are like, as in, I've had enough disappointments as a 35-year-old woman, a 36-year-old woman. I just want a baby. All I want is a baby. Like, really, you don't have to do very much else. Just, I want a baby. And they will have kids and not even tell guys. And my cousin was like that. Look, the first son that she gave birth to, the baby daddy. Nobody knows. Nobody knows who her baby daddy is of the first kid. The second kid, yes, she was married, and then they got divorced and whatnot. And the reason why he used my cousin in the dream was to show me the kind of women that we're dealing with here. And so now let's get on straight into the dream, right? Where it is that this dream. First of all, it was in tribulation mode. There was chaos all over the show. Everybody was dangerous. Everybody was dangerous. Like, there was no safety anywhere. Wonkumuntu was running away from Wonkumuntu. Everybody was running away from everybody. It was chaotic. Let me save this. Everybody was running away from everybody, and it was very, very chaotic, evidencing to me that it was a time of the tribulation. Alright? Guys, okay, before we even get into that, the second coming of the Lord Jesus Christ, I've already explained to you guys that God is going to allow for the creation of some very scary child armies that are going to be low-key, not even low-key, just frankly, just plainly cannibalistic children that are going to be recalcitrant against all authority, including the Antichrist system. And the only thing that's going to rescue Labantwana Laba is the second coming of the Lord Jesus Christ. In the previous video that I lost, I spoke about Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union. And I was trying to help you guys understand what it is that parents and older people are doing to kids. Look at how Dwayne Wade's kids now disregard or disrespect their biological mom. Only because Dwayne Wade has got a better socio-economic standing than his ex-wife. And the ex-wife is also not a celebrity. And so for those reasons, these kids glamorized Gabrielle Union, who is an adulteress at this particular juncture. Do you understand what I'm saying? And these kids, upon glamorizing Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union at the expense of their own mom, glamorized, first of all, divorce, and secondly, it's just indiscretion against a mother that just wants her children, and that's all. She stole those kids from that woman. That's what's good. And now that they're getting a divorce or whatever's going on between them, she's out here raising just her daughter, having abandoned those kids. Never mind that. One of the kids, Zaya, whatever his real male name is, I do not know, Wade, is out here transitioning from being a boy to a girl. That whole thing is heralded and praised by the adulterous woman, Gabrielle Union, and of course the man himself, Dwayne Wade, because they belong to an industry that just wants to flip everybody into anything other than godly. And the ex-wife, stood on the rooftop screaming, "No, please, I don't want this thing being done to my child. This kid just wants to do whatever it is that this kid wants to do." And the mother's like, no, and yet he feels very supported by Gabrielle Union and Dwayne Wade. This kid is on the highway to hell. Do you understand? With all of his resistance of his biological makeup as he was given by God Almighty. Something that will make him a citizen of Sodom. Something of which, upon it making him a citizen of Sodom, will then of course give him the judgment of Sodom. He will get burned with sulfur and brimstone. That's what's going to happen. Do you understand? And the only thing that would ever rescue Zaya Wade from condemnation is something very shocking. Suddenly defibrillating him out of a state of trance, out of a trance-like state, to make him realize that his mom was right, Gabrielle and Dwayne were wrong, and that he was tarried from a household that would have raised him up in the admonition of the Lord. His dad decided to divorce his mom, and then his mom tried to bring him back home to honor the Lord, and he was facing starkly into the face of Hollywood, staring starkly into the face of Hollywood, and was like, there's no way I'm gonna choose your lowly life mom over dad's luxurious life with his new wife. Kids being impressionable and raised up in such chaotic ecosystems as those are therefore bred just for the flames of hell. They are manufactured just for the flames of hell. They are like a clump of cells that are being aborted eternally. Do you understand? They are born just to die because their parents are that irresponsible. This kid, if the rapture happens and his mom goes, if at all Dwayne Wade's ex-wife is truly a Christian as she claims to be, this kid will realize that his mom was taken, dad was wrong, and everything else was wrong. Already this thing should be dawning on them that Gabriel was not even all that ride or die, because but that's not even enough to snap Zaya Wade out of the trance he's in. Why? Because he is being praised, he's being glorified and exalted and heralded and accoladed for his behavior by the entertainment industry. He's getting all different kinds of endorsement deals for this lifestyle in order to become a spokesperson for the colorful community. This kid is condemned, and presently in the state he will die and go to hell unless the Lord has mercy on this kid that was set up for failure from the very get-go and allows him to run out the course of his teenage years and then entering into his early 20s in the tribulation, and then waiting for the second coming of the Lord Jesus Christ to realize that Jesus is actually Lord and I'm a boy and my mom was right, because she is a saint coming back with Jesus on a white horse glorified, while my dad is now the lowly one. That is if Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union do not give their lives to Christ. They might take the mark of the beast. If they don't, they will be living in obscurity, in an off-grid life. Do you understand? Running away from the system they helped create, that is now a despotic structure that is trying to steal their souls. They're now groveling, they're now facing beheading. And this kid could have gone home with the mom, rejoiced with Jesus in the sky, eaten the marriage supper of the Lamb, having been raised up in the admonition of the Lord. But his dad tarried him with his new wife. The same thing is true with Alicia Keys and Swiss Beats and those kids. They don't stand a chance except for the rapture. When children are growing up being praised for nonsense. Another day I discovered Uguti Wana Sade, you think I'd leave your side, baby? I wouldn't do that. Sade, that old school music singer, was a girl. And now, when I think transitioned to a boy, Sade gave birth to a baby girl and now it's a baby, it's a grown man. What the heck? What chances? You know what? Sade's kid has no excuse, because Sade's kid is a millennial. Sade's kid is like me, because Sade's my mom's age. She's my mom's age. So, I mean, when parents, because of their industry or because of their single parenthood, because they're busy making like Papa, when they are leading children this astray, they are literally producing babies for the flames of hell. And some of these kids are dying super young too, and still going to hell at that young age. In my dream, I was shown just how early the devil expects children to be condemned, because he has made an observation of how many of them arrive in Sheol at a young age, at a tiny little age. In my dream, we were running around all over the show. It was chaotic. Do you understand? It was very, very chaotic. And we were there were these little people that we were running with, and everywhere was dangerous. Everyone was dangerous. However, we ultimately found like a respite, like a joint to just come down, chill, maybe even sleep for an hour, because we were running away from everything and everyone. It was chaotic everywhere. And I was with my cousin in this dream. I was with my cousin was there with me. My cousin, however, had just made a baby. And this baby of hers was about 11 months, no older than 11 months old. Just 11 months. Just under a year. The kid was not walking yet. The baby was not walking yet. My cousin put her baby down. It was a girl. For just a minute, guys. Because we were all retired. We were trying to sleep. We had been running. We had been running. Hiding from the threats on the earth. And from people, especially people. We were running from people. We found a respite. And my cousin put her baby down for 1 minute. And that baby disappeared. It's almost as if though it was teleported into the ecosystem of some crocodiles. There's the crocodiles. This time around, these crocodiles were not walking, but they were kind of crawling on top of each other. And one of these crocodiles opened its mouth and clapped. Basically, with the baby, consuming the baby, it took the baby in its mouth and started to, like, you know how the teeth of a crocodile clap against each other? He was trying, this crocodile was trying to eat the baby. And we all were entered, like our hearts sank as soon as we saw this crocodile in the grasp, sort of the baby in the mouth of this crocodile. And the baby, man, the way was coddled. It was wrapped in some pretty bright white clothes. Like not clothes, skin, dikobo, alright? Our hearts sank, guys. Our hearts sank because we all imagined, this is it. We're gonna watch this thing maul the baby and kill it. And we're gonna just have to sit back and cry and comfort my cousin, whose baby was being eaten by a crocodile. And this crocodile kept on clapping its teeth on the baby. And the baby was not dying. The baby was not bleeding. The baby was not getting pierced. The baby was just living. And so eventually, after we made a realization, we made an observation that the crocodile was not killing the baby. My cousin bravely, like, you know, mother's instincts. You know how mothers can move a car off the body of a baby, a whole car, just on adrenaline alone? Yeah, my cousin on adrenaline went to this crocodile. She ran to this crocodile and took the baby from its grasp, risking even her own life. And when the baby was out of the mouth of the crocodile, guys, not even a single hair on its head. It didn't have hair. It was a baby. Was gone. Like it was like nothing. Not even a scratch. Not even crocodile saliva. Nothing. Just a baby that was full, whole. Nothing was wrong with it. We were relieved, but we kept on running and running and running. The baby was safe. We found another respite, and then upon putting the baby down again for a second time, just 1 minute, my cousin puts the baby down. We look around. The baby is in the midst of crocodiles, one of the crocodiles of which eats the baby, puts the baby in the mouth and tries to chew on the baby. And the baby just lay there. It was sleeping, it was not talking, and it was not getting bitten into. My cousin yet again bravely went and took this baby out. And the dream basically ended with us being in that cycle where the crocodile would every time we took a rest and the baby got put down, we would find the baby getting teleported into the mouth of a crocodile. The crocodile would try to eat it and not be able. What was God showing me there? He was showing me that the devil has made an observation of how little babies or children can be when they go to Sheol, such that he experiments with destroying their souls from as little as 11 months. Like in my dream, my cousin's baby was 11 months old. But then as we were running, every time the baby would get put down, the crocodile would try to eat the baby and not be able. Why was the crocodile not able to eat the baby? It was because it was still too pure. It was sinless. It was holy. It had not yet sinned. And so it was not devoured by the adversary, the devil, who prances around like a roaring lion seeking whomever he may devour. The baby did not get devoured because the baby was still too innocent. Meaning that if that baby had perished at any given moment, it would have gone to heaven. Like Bathsheba's baby in the stomach, going immediately to heaven. Like newborn babies going to immediately to heaven. Stillborn babies going immediately to heaven. And babies up to a certain age, children up to a certain age, go into heaven. No matter what happens, whether or not they're given the gospel. But that age is so young that the devil keeps trying. Each new juncture where the mother basically... It was always when my cousin put her baby down to rest that the devil pounced on her. My cousin represents what kind of a woman? The kind of woman, Vela, to keep on having babies without a man around. The kind of woman to bring children into this world without there being a protective structure, and the kind of woman to also not raise her children up in the admonition of the Lord. My cousin has persecuted the living daylights out of me as well. She is a professing Christian, but she is living a lifestyle that is not above reproach in front of kids. Sons that she raised that don't think much of God. And she has also lied to her sons about me. Somebody who is walking a life consecrated to God. The Lord is showing me the kinds of women that would give birth to babies that the devil would try to devour. It's women like my cousin. Women like those. Nina, any tagatayo, heavily pregnant. Nina, any busy, giving boyfriends first, second, third children before you finally marry him at fourth child. You women that are out here just having a baby because you feel like the biological clock is ticking, so you're gonna find any sperm donor in these streets. It's you women who don't have any regard for God's plan for family, whose children get devoured by crocodiles, get experimented on by the one. Let me just save this. Children who get devoured, who get experimentally chewed or devoured by the devil, and then the devil realizing, this one, not yet. It's not yet time. I saw boots. Like your babies, how can I describe them? Yesterday, when I was having dinner, I had it with an avocado that was not fully ripe. And so there were parts of it that were hard in a bora. And I had to throw away the hard part, because by then it was already wasted. The devil literally sits outside of your children, like waiting outside of an avocado on your pantry to get ripe before you will cut it and eat it. Your kids are like an avocado. When they're born, ditile, and so they can't be eaten. But then over time, they get softer and softer and softer and softer and softer. And when they're super soft, that's when they can get devoured. And the devil keeps experimenting. You know how with an avocado as well, you go to it and you will keep pressing it, pinching it to see if at all it's gotten there. You know, because you don't want to cut it open before it's ripe, otherwise you're gonna have to throw it away. You pinch it to see if at all it's ripened, and if at all it is ripened, only then do you cut it open to eat it. And the devil literally treats your babies like that when your children are not being raised in the admonition of the Lord, when they're not being raised in Christian households. Their hardness does not remain. In other words, their inedibility by the devil does not remain. Your kids get born inedible like avocados, but they get soft over time. However, Christian kids that are raised in Christian households, because kids embrace Christ so easily, when you keep on teaching them Jesus from a very early age, they're like a hard avocado. Turning 2, hard avocado. Turning 3, hard avocado. Turning 4, hard avocado. Turning 5, hard avocado. Turning 7, 12, hard avocado. You need to make your children a hard avocado so the devil cannot get to them. However, he knows that this avocado softens at a very early age because he has made an observation. He has seen kids get to Sheol very young. Very young. because their avocado outward shell, their avocado, like the inside, was softened quickly. And in my dream, the devil kept on trying with my cousin's baby, because it was my cousin's baby. A kid that was not being raised up in the admonition of the Lord. A kid that was not being responsibly raised by a woman that was also bringing this kid into a world where they would have a cognitive dissonance about how the world is operating or how the world ought to operate. When you raise children in confusion, when you claim you're a Christian but you're busy fornicating, you're a mistress of a man, you've got all different kinds of weird things. Or this kid is a child of a man that's married to another woman. You are creating softness in them. Because Buckley's are an observation and then ditch your Jesus, and the poor thing will pass away in a drowning at the age of 12, having completely rejected your Jesus. A kid that will not have been convicted to not smoke on the school playground because she's raised in a Christian household, decide to go and take drugs, marijuana, die from a drug overdose at just the age of 13. They don't go to heaven. They don't. And the Lord is showing me that a lot of these children are entering into hellfire to a point where it is so unacceptable that he has got to bring the rapture on board. He's got to bring the tribulation on board so that these kids can be given a chance by him showing himself to them, giving that their parents have already set them up for failure. I've already said this before. In my dream, these crocodiles kept on appearing every time my cousin would put the baby down. In other words, look, rest away, no, this thing, this sleeping. The moment your child is out of your sight in Jefel, the devil is already like, on them, trying to kill them. That baby never got devoured because it was still too young. Mara, God was showing me more or less what age the devil tries. He tried at 11 months and he kept trying until my dream, I basically woke up out of it. It happened on a loop. On a loop. At some point that kid was going to be big enough, and the thing that made that kid vulnerable, that baby vulnerable, was the mom. The mom was who made that kid vulnerable to being devoured. You are sending children to hell, guys. I can't say that enough. That's why the rapture has to happen. That's why it has to happen. You are closing the ears of your children from hearing the true gospel because you're so irresponsible. You are busy trying to get your bread buttered on both sides. You busy sending children to hell. Lisa Banadi healing. The Lord has seen enough little souls going to hell for him to be like, this is it, I'm done. All this carnage on the earth, thanks to all of these irresponsible grown-ups. I won't do it. The Lord is going to end the world as we know it. He will rapture the body of Christ. There will then be child armies all over the show. The child armies of which are going to get rescued for Jesus in the second coming. They will be the most able to survive people on the earth. However, they're going to be dangerous. Dangerous. Because of how irresponsible with them you were. You've made kids recalcitrant. You've made them evil. My little sister, if the tribulation were to commence when she was 15, she would have been left behind. I would have been taken. If the tribulation were to commence when my little sister was 12, she would have been left behind. 10, she would have been left behind. 11, what do you call this? 11, 9, not 10, sorry, King, 9, 8, 7, 6, perhaps maybe from 9, 8, 7, 6. Potentially, she might have made heaven. Why? Because I was trying on her. I was trying on her. And she was taken to a school, a Christian. She was all the schools that she attended when she was on the come up were Christian. Her dad put her in a Christian boarding school somewhere in Magaliesburg, and then after that she was moved to a Christian private school in the southern parts of Johannesburg, and then after that they moved her to a secular school where it is that everything went awry. Her high school, it was secular, and everything went awry from that date. She was not disrespectful towards me, even in the beginning of my sorrow, but then she was made disrespectful. She used to care. She used to regard me. She used to listen to what I said, and all that was ripped out of her hand. I would talk to her about Jesus and she would hear me. Kids have to choose Christ for themselves, but before they choose Jesus, you gotta convince them. You gotta teach them, you gotta train them. And while they're still learning him, the Lord, if at all they've not reached accountability, he will take them in if they die at that stage. But my little sister, look, from the ages of 0 to, like I said, about 8, if at all anything had happened to her, she might have gone to heaven. But after that, downhill. She's been condemned. Not that she's lost her salvation. She's never had it. But there are people who go to heaven without embracing the gospel because they are not yet able to. Like Messiah, babies, brand spanking new babies, have never heard the gospel, but they go to heaven anyway because they're pure. 1-year-olds, 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds. I don't know at what point my sister lost. Well, I don't know what that age of accountability is, guys. All I know is that from what I saw in my dream, the devil tries from hella young. From just 11 months, he was trying to devour that baby. It means he knows that the avocado can go soft in some children very young. He was trying to devour an 11-month baby. What under heaven would send a 4-year-old to Sheol? What? You. When you teach your 4-year-old to swear, when you teach your 4-year-old to just embrace, like you keep on teaching them, like if at all a kid can have a conscience about evil, if a child can feel guilty for hurting a person, it's already over for them unless they are given the gospel, unless they're evangelized. So you need to teach children up in the way that they should go from very early on. You need to give them Jesus from very early on. Very early. Very early. I do not know how God deals with these cases on a case-by-case basis. All I know is that what I saw in my dream was an 11-month-old baby literally being tried by the devil, tested to see if he is consumable. She is consumable. And the differentiator, like I said, was the mom. The mom was the reason why the devil wanted that kid. So you literally send your children to hell. The devil hovers around households of pagans. He hovers around households of disregarders of God. He hovers around households. That's why earlier when I was speaking, Lana, I lamented about the LGBTQIA community. All of these gay men and women adopting children. Yeah, that's what's good. The devil, as soon as you bring like a whole brand spanking new innocent baby into the house of a lesbian couple, the devil is going to try and devour that baby from around 11 months from what I saw. Around 11 months. He is going to tarry that kid from around 11 months so that should that child die at any given time from exiting accountability age, from entering accountability age, from that time going forward, you better the thing that saves children right now is the fact that they live to see the next day and the next day. But some don't. There are kids that die at 5, at 6, at 7. I can't say that enough. And it is these kids, when they enter hell, that grieves God like no man's business. What do you think? Why under heaven would you think that a child wearing a suicide vest that's 7 years old is going to heaven? Bombing a restaurant. All of these kids in Islam that are holding explosives, bombing themselves and everybody around. Why would you think that kid is going to heaven, guys? It's like he is literally dying in violence at an age where he can comprehend wrong and right, or conscience applies, but he's not employing it. The invisible qualities of God are all over creation, leaving everybody without excuse. And so too is a conscience leaving everybody without excuse. As soon as you can feel guilty for doing anything wrong, it's over. As soon as you're uncomfortable with any wrongdoing, that's when you are basically out of grace to enter heaven without the gospel. So Hamas is condemning children, that they're sending out there on dangerous missions, finding themselves getting killed because they are literally shooting at the age of 12 indiscriminately into Israel. And so when they shoot that kid dead, he's going to hell. That's what you need to understand. Because from the moment they're just 11 months old, from what I saw in my dream, the devil tries. He tries. So all of y'all busy just having babies and shit because you're broody and you're not married. You are not honoring God's, basically his whole structure for the earth, his whole plan for us. If you're not honoring it, it is your kids that get targeted. It is the kids that don't have a shield around them by the prayer of their parents, Christian women and men. It is the kids who belong to households of lukewarm Christians. Kids who belong to households of unbelievers. They're the ones that the devil is always just trying to clamp on with these crocodiles. And I saw in the tribulation, women running rampant all over the show, and men, everybody just running away. And the devil just ramped up his whole abuse against kids. He's gonna devour them very early. I told you about child soldiers, child militants, like child cannibals, child gangs, child terrorists that are going to be a whole thing in the tribulation. The only reason why they even raise up these child gangs is because the devil, he takes them from high schools, he takes them from primary schools. He tried to devour that baby. Did not work because the baby was still too little. But he's gonna get to your 4-year-old, and your 4-year-old is gonna belong to a gang of kids from ranging in age from the age of 4 to 18, 19, 20, 21. And these kids are going to be hardened criminals, and nobody's gonna be able to talk sense into them, even though they're just 4, even though they're just 5. As soon as they can walk and just feel like they're gonna be destructive, carrying heavy guns in their small little child hands and shooting human beings with them. It's going to happen. The devil is going to create a child army in the tribulation, and that's what I saw. He was already trying to take my cousin's 11-month-old daughter. So when I say look out for child gangs, understand I mean it, and across continents, across the world. It won't be just one particular country that tends to have this as an issue, like Africa. There's a lot of child soldiers all over the show. No, we're not just speaking the Middle East and Africa. It's everywhere where these child gangs are going to happen, and the devil is going to be recruiting them one after the other. But thankfully, these kids, God is going to have mercy on them in that they won't take the mark of the beast. But it's going to be like Lord of the Rings, like I said. Not rings, flies. Lord of the Flies. Where it is that some are going to die in the tribulation and go to hell. They will die because they're violent. Some of them will perish. Some of them will die in combat. Some of them will get shot down by the army. Some of them, the armies of the world are going to be the only structures that these kids fear. Everybody else's sport is going to be just a game for them. Just a game. So they're going to die easily. They're going to die also very horrific deaths. But the grand majority of them, quite a big chunk, God is going to save for himself. Because of the fact that they will have been set up for failure by you. You. Look out for that. It's all I can say, guys. Look out for it. Look out for it. It's coming. It is inevitable. It is coming to a next door neighbor near you. It is coming to a creche near you. It is coming to a primary school near you. It is coming to a preschool near you. It is coming to a high school near you. Understand, this world is going to be teeming at the fold with scary, fearsome children that will have been taken by the devil. And once they work for Satan, when they die, they will go to hell. So all that you can do at that stage is pray that they make it to the end of the tribulation. You have to pray for their souls. Hore. In their rebellion, they will at least get to the second coming, because Christ, when he returns, he will rescue all of them. He will rescue them. But the ones who die, they die and they go to hell. It's going to happen. So like I said, may the odds be ever in your favor. Like Effie Tinkett. I'm explaining to you what's coming in the tribulation, guys. It's inevitably going to come, because listen to Lefati. You've destroyed children. These child soldiers would not have been raised up as child soldiers if the rapture did not happen. They would have just grown up to be exactly you. They would have been like a CEO, an accountant. They would have been a very pompous, arrogant Casanova. They would have been the player in your school that sleeps with 5 girls in one night. They would have been the doctor, the nurse, that has no idea he's going to hell or she's going to hell. Because they're living what they imagine to be a moral life, following after the footsteps of their moms and dads. These kids would have grown up to be just like you, a chartered accountant, just like you, a lawyer. They would have grown up to be just like you, a project manager. They would have grown up to be just like you, like some housewife. Nothing much, really. Nothing that anybody should be scared of, but they're going to become battle-hardened. They're going to become militant. They're going to become cannibalistic. They're going to become murderous and violent. They're going to become a terror on the earth because of you. So you better be grateful that God brought the rapture on board, because absent of the rapture having happened, like I said, your kids would have died an old, retired nurse and gone to hell anyway. But this time around, they will become a cannibal and then a believer in the Lord Jesus Christ, living out the rest of their lives in the millennial reign of Jesus Christ. I feel as if the second half is better. The latter description is better, because at least they get to go to heaven after dying. However, they're going to be heartbroken with the blood guilt on their shoulders. They're going to be barren. They're going to be like Holocaust survivors, if you know what I mean. They're going to get to an old age with lots of sore memories. They're going to get to an old age with lots of pain. They're going to remember how futile you were as their mom or dad. They're going to remember how futile you were as their teacher. They're going to remember how futile you were as their lukewarm pastor busy preaching health, wealth, and prosperity every Sunday. They're going to remember your futility made them cannibals, and only Jesus rescued them. And now, as 48-year-old women and men, they have to deal with the memory of all the blood they spilled. Now that the Lord has removed scales off their eyes and uncalloused their hearts, given them a new heart, renewed a new spirit within them, given them a conscience. And so because their consciences have been restored to them, they will be forced to remember, just like post-traumatic stressed out or soldiers on the battlefield. They will be forced to remember all the blood they shed, the blood of which they would not have shed if only you had given them the gospel. Some of whom will also remember their fellow comrades that passed away when they were busy being Carnegie kids, when they were busy being destructive, nihilistic, abusive kids. They will remember how one of their own died, and they mourned only for other kids and no one else. And that kid, they will know, is burning in hell forever. And it will have all been your fault. So repenta and pray for the souls of those kids to at least be spared until the second coming, because not even you are going to convince them of Christ with your Bible in the tribulation as a Christian that's running away from the Antichrist system. No one but Jesus is going to convince them. You did that. You and only you. So eventually, seeing as you're first going to get born again, given that you will believe this message that I am speaking now. Bana ba lona, ke a le ka rapella memoya ya bona, batswadi towe ba tawisitseng bana ba lefatshe. La nkutlwa. May the odds be ever in your favor. I'm signing out in the name of Christ, Crank. Bye.